Hey folks, this is Fat Guy Flies RC coming to you from the Man Cave Studios, and what I've got here is a plain brown box. This is the just released new first release of 2026 from Durafly and HobbyKing. This is the Durafly Tundra TPX. Now, I do not know what TPX stands for, but I can tell you that this is a profile EPP foam Tundra plane. It's a Tundra, okay? And it has a 41-inch wingspan, or 1,050 millimeters. The length is 1,000 millimeters, or 39 inches long, so it's not entirely small plane. It has a 2212 with a KV 1250 brushless motor, 30 amp Aerostar LITE brushless ESC. It has 4 high torque 9-gram servos. The propeller is a 9x4.7. And the battery of choice is a 400 to 800 milliamp 4S. It also will run on a 3S. Flying weight with that recommended battery is 450 to 500 grams. Okay. It features fully 3D capable EPP plane profile and the legendary Durafly design. Plug and fly light design. All the electronics are already installed. Minimal gluing is required. Oversized Tundra wheels. Live hinged rudder. That was the entire rudder and the aileron. The whole aileron. The elevator is a full flying stab. The whole thing. Yeah, for maximum deflection and ultra tough EPP material, strong and forgivable. So in other words, this thing can take a hit because they know it's going to be very small and light, so it's going to take a hit. But EPP foam is like you can drop it and drop it and drop it, and it doesn't make a dent in it. Okay, but that's the only graphics. Now I don't know. I'm actually filming this now the 30th of January of 26. This isn't actually going to be released until the 14th or 15th of February. So I'm getting this done ahead of time, and I'm going to tell you right now, I have never, all the years of all the planes and everything, I've never done an EPP profile plane before. Of all the stuff, I've done an EPP with a dancing wing eagle, that eagle, back before I ever started the channel, and I mean, it flew okay. I didn't know what I was doing. I had the CG way off. But I've never done this kind of construction before with EPP. So this is new to me. So, oh, cool. Everything is packed like its own little crate. I'm not going to do the upward view. I'm just going to show it. This is actually pretty simple as far as how it's all constructed in there. It's just all in its own little level there. And I've already opened it up one time to look at it, but everything's protected where you're not going to have to worry about it. So I can say the elevators, the whole thing is going to move. So and everything I've read the instructions. The instructions will be online, and it specifies. I don't know how many times it keeps saying, make sure you dry fit everything, and make sure you have so use a little bit of Vaseline on, because you don't want some of the glue to get on your hinges like this, because this right here, this whole thing's going to move. So you can imagine if you had glue got on your hinge, well then it's not going to go anywhere, and you're going to think, how come my plane don't work right? It comes with propeller and the some of the carbon fiber support rod, the struts basically, some Velcro. There's a string in there for some reason, probably to pull something through, I guess. All right. Some fuselage molding to hide your wires and your motor, I'm sure, or your battery and everything. Like I say, most of this construction is done for you. Not super small. I mean, it's a decent size model. All your struts for your motor or your rudder is already done. Your connection for your rudder has already been made for you. So, look at that! Look at that throw there. So, your elevator wire has already been ran and everything's secured. Your elevator push rod. So you're going to glue on the wing. I'm going to assume that this is where we're going to put the maybe the receiver, maybe? I don't know. Little ESC there. Oh, it's now this is important. It takes an XT30, so you're going to have smaller batteries. They sent one battery. I don't know if you'll get a battery with the plane. I got one. And I also bought some on my own. So, but just to show you, this is a, obviously never took it out of the box, out of the thing before. So it's got an XT30. This is a 4-cell. And this is an 850 milliamp Turnigy 4S. Has a 70 to 140 C discharge. I can't. Yeah, 4S 850 milliamp 4S Turnigy XT30. So this is what we'll be using. In fact, I'll be charging that up here in just a minute. I also bought, or I got, one of their new Bolts batteries, and this is a 750 milliamp. And this is a 4S, but you charge this as the high voltage rate of 15.2. So, or not 15.2, 4.35, I'm sure. Yeah. Anyways, LIV pack, high voltage pack. And this is another one that they're really pushing these. And I've got a few of them, and I've been very pleased with the performance, but nothing this small before. So we're going to give this a shot. That's for certain. Landing gear, which is kind of cool looking, very extremely light. And bubble wrap, yay, bubble wrap. Everybody loves bubble wrap. These look like Tonka wheels. They do, I'm sorry, but they do. They look like Tonka wheels. Spongy, very super light. Super light. So, yeah, that's going to be cool. All right. And then, of course, your quick setup guide that gives you your throws and your CG and all that kind of good jazz. I don't know what the difference is this side versus this side. Now, make sure if you want a step-by-step instruction with pictures, make sure you scan the QR code here, and you can put it on your laptop or whatever, or pull it up go to the website and click on the files. That's why they don't send a full printed out manual, because that saves them money. That's how they can offer these planes at a lot lower price than all the competitors. Okay, put all this back in here. Then, of course, we got the wingy dingy. This thing is like super light. Super light. And this box is like unusually heavy. But a lot of EPP. This kind of foam is great for padding, and also like making plane stands and stuff with it. So don't hang on to that kind of stuff. But your wings are already hooked up. Got some monster control surfaces here. Look how long the arms are on those servos. So that's telling me that, yeah, look at that. Yeah, you're going to have some monster throws. Already got a Y there. Now, I'm sure you could easily separate those and use a 6-channel receiver and then do like flapper-ons or something if you wanted to. But nice, big, buttery, super light wing. So, all right. Now, HobbyKing, hopefully you won't get mad at me. But like I said, I've never put this kind of plane together. Okay? So, I'm unboxing it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit and have the instructions up on the screen, which were emailed to me because it's not available yet, with the pictures. And I'm going to put this thing together. And you're saying, oh, we're not going to watch. I've never done one of these before. Okay? I've never done this kind of construction before. So it's new to me. And unless I've got a really solid grasp on something, I'm not going to try to show it. Okay, because I don't want you to. But as I run into mistakes or anything I come across, I'm like, oh wow, I will get this together. But when I get done, we're going to come back, and I'm going to, afterwards, and I'm going to show you everything I did, what the problems I encountered with. Oh, it did say, yeah, I think I told you get some Vaseline. I got some Vaseline over there for the glue parts, because just like old school, you had CA hinges and stuff, or hinges, and you didn't want the actual mechanical hinge to get with your CA in it. You put some Vaseline on it. Same idea. So have some of that. But I'm going to put it all together, and if I come across any issues or anything I need to explain or point out, or if it's like super simple and I tell you not to worry, then take my word for it. But if anything I come out, I'm going to share it with you. I've never done this type of construction, and I just don't feel comfortable, you know, putting the stamp of, hey, fat guy flies RC knows what he's doing. Well, no, I really don't. Not in definitely not in this situation. I've just never done one of these. Okay, well, I think we've got the dead horse beat there on that. All right, we'll be right back. I'll have her all put together, and we'll go over everything that happened. God bless y'all. Be right back. All right, here you have, they want you to start with the spar here, okay, the back in the spar. They want you to use a round file, and you've got both halves of these connectors here where you're going to slide your spar through. And they want you to slide the spar through, okay, and they tell you on these little areas here to take a round file and kind of hollow them out to where your wing spar will fit right through them. Okay, I'm trying to do this with one hand here. Okay, well, I don't have to where your tail spar will fit right through there. Okay, well, and then rotate freely, but not super loose. Just kind of rotate like this. Well, I don't have a round file. Okay, so what I did was I just took an old steak knife, and I just kind of reamed out these openings here until this slid through. It slid through pretty good, but it was tight. But now that I've kind of just keep rotating that out until this slides freely through there and doesn't bind. And then that's okay. That's the biggest tip right now so far. We'll be right back with more. All right, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to look at the back of your model here. You're going to lay the right side where these spar sides are up, and you're going to run the spar through here where it's 16 millimeters, exactly 16 millimeters from here to here, okay? And then put some CA here and here, here and here, with a little bit of kicker to hold that in place. And that's that half of your elevator. Don't do anything else yet until that's completely dry. The other thing you're going to be doing is you see these little rings here. Now, this plastic coating, you have to remove this. So this is clear. This is white. You got to take this plastic coating off. It's going to look like this when you pull it off. All I did was I carefully held the pieces down, and then I just took the edge of my knife and then just peeled it off on both of these things. And that's what you got to have. You're going to have both of these clear like that before you could go any further. Okay, remember that little clear spacer I had sitting here? You're going to slide it over the end up to the end of the spar here on this right here, okay? And this is where you're going to take a little dab of petroleum jelly, okay, or the grease or something. And I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to show you. I got to hold this with one hand. Hold on. All right. All I did was I took a little bit of petroleum jelly on the end of a Q-tip, and I rubbed it on the outside of that ring, just on that clear ring. That's all I did. Alrighty. Now the next thing, remember we were talking about the. I decided. Sorry, it was loud. You slid that clear spar, okay. Put it on the. You put it on the spar here on this side where you got that ring on this. You put it over here. It's going to show you on the instruction. I'm trying to explain this and watch the camera at the same time. You slide this through put this far end down here. When it first slides through, hold your little clear spar in place and let it slide through there, and then let the spar continue on through the other side to where you have this spar trapped between this inside ring and the inside of the fuse here. Okay, and remember, you've got that grease on there, that Vaseline I put there. That way this rotates freely. And make sure, just grab your one half of your elevator and make sure it's 90 degrees, and that's where you're going to lock down your control horn, and that way the thing is 90 degrees. Alrighty, now I've got this in here, I've got grease in between the two, and everything moves freely. This is at 90 degrees. So now at this point, I know there's a little cutout there where your control horn should sit. Make sure that it's there. There's a little cutout right there. You can see a little dip in the foam. That's where you want to align that. So make sure everything is 90 degrees and that your control horn or your clevis almost touches it, with this all being 90 degrees from each other. Okay, where that almost touches and almost connects. You've got some wiggle room with this wire, but let's go ahead and tilt that forward just a little bit more. Make sure everything's lined up. And you can actually let it just sit on there, and that way you know that your control arm and your clevis would touch. Okay, so at this point, what we can do is, actually, I'm going to go ahead and help it out just a little bit more. Okay, yeah, and that way that's there. Now I'm lined up. I know everything's 90 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and put some CA, making sure I don't touch that spacer that's got the grease on there. And I'm going to put my medium CA to help secure both sides. And this is what it's going to hold. You know, don't be afraid to put a decent amount on there, because that's what's going to hold, what's going to control your elevator. Probably your most important. There, a little bit of kicker on there. All right. Now, all I'm going to do is take the other half. Okay, the other half of the elevator. I'm going to take one of these spacers. Okay, and these little spacers I was telling you about. Just take the end of your knife. Just don't cut yourself. And then just take the end of the knife here. We'll lay it on the table, and then just kind of lift. Looks like you're getting extra spacers and extra, at least I did. And all I did was I just put the edge of the knife to where I could get that little bit of plastic material up off of there. Okay, see how that's just starting to peel away there? Okay, and go ahead and do that to both sides of it. It looks like you get an extra spacer and an extra control arm. Okay. Now I know you're like, well, okay. These parts that are just mundane like this, where I'm trying to do something, I'll edit that out. But make sure that ring, that clear ring, is nice and clear. Go ahead and slide it on the other side. Okay. Right up against the other side of the fuselage. Put a little bit of grease on it. A little bit of, and all I'm doing is just a little bit of Vaseline on there. I'm going to slide that on because I don't want that to impede. I don't want to get any glue on that. Okay. All right, so that's on there. Now I'm going to slide this other half on, and remember that should be 16 millimeters, and since I've measured, it should be hanging out 16 millimeters on this side also. So this should all be nice and secure now. It should freely moves. And I'm just going to twist that other side on there. Okay, just like that. It's up against that spacer. Okay, let me get everything nice and 90 degrees where everything lines up. And then I'm going to take my CA. And look, this thing wasn't long enough because it's not hanging out. I've got a little more over here, so probably need to put more like 8 millimeters, because look how far it's all lined up, but look how far it's hanging out over here. There's more here, so do a little bit less. Put about 8 millimeters out and you should be fine. But that little bit of extra spar on this side is not going to affect anything. Okay, I gotta make sure everything is lined up at 90 degrees in one piece. Okay, make sure everything's lined up before I lock down this side. I'll use just this CA on the one side of this bracket over this, these little clear brackets. I'll just put CA on this one side. And I'll put CA on both sides of this one over here. Meanwhile, I'm holding it in place. Okay? Don't hit it with your hand or anything while you pull it away. And that's nice and even. All right, a little kicker on there. All right. I broke the nozzle on this. That's why it shoots out both sides. And when I get down, I'm going to show you the CA that I use. It's absolutely phenomenal and great price. All right, now that is nice. And that should, look at that. Yeah. It's all one nice piece. Yeah, that's all one. And this actually is the hardest part of this entire build. This is going to be the hardest part. So let's go ahead and move you back a little bit. And this was the part I was the most worried about. Everything else that I've been reading these instructions carefully, everything else seems very, very simple. Okay, so now we're actually going to move on to the wings. Since this is done, okay, yeah, that action, see how that control arm, look at that. See the whole thing, that kicker's nice. That's why I love kicker. Okay, so that's nice. Now we're going to move you back a little bit and we'll continue on. All right, take this, set this off the side carefully to let that continue to cure. Okay, where it's not going to be interrupted. And let's work on this wing here. This is the next thing we're going to connect. Okay. Alrighty. So you got the wing here, right? All right. You got both halves of the wing. This is the center of the middle of the wing. Take this middle of the fuselage is basically 30 millimeters wide. So take your ruler, okay, and you're going to want to mark you some spots that are 15. Let me get the wrong side, right side of the ruler here. Okay, 15 millimeters on either side. Okay, as serve as a guide. So that's 10. So that's about 15 right there. Okay, so get you a Sharpie or something. Okay, so that's going to be about 15 there. And then if that's the center, then 15 will be right here. Let's see. Right there. Okay. See how far that is? Okay. So then go down here. Put it on the 15. Okay. Make me a mark there. And make me a mark there. And those two, that's where the fuse is going to be lining up. Got your fuse up here. It's approximately 30 millimeters wide. Okay. Go ahead and undo that Y to where your both has your wings fit freely. Okay. And let's go ahead and dry fit this. Okay. It both has the fuselage, or both has the wing on either side, obviously. All right. And it's going to kind of dry fit that. Okay. And the nice thing about it is that there's a seam that runs right down there. Well, if you line that up with the middle foam section there, look at what you've got. Then you've got this perfectly lined up wing. All right, now we're gonna, so basically the end of the seam should be right in the middle of the foam, okay? And then the end of the seam should be in the middle of that middle piece of foam back here. So what I'm gonna do to make this even easier is I'm gonna take my Sharpie, I'm gonna put a black mark right there, and a black mark right there, to where I can see it, okay? Now, this is where I'm going to use a decent amount of CA, okay? because yes, it's going to be connected here, but it's also going to be connected by some wing struts also. Okay, dry fit this one more time. This would probably be a good place for like epoxy or something, but I use this real thick medium CA. Okay, line up the center line with both your black marks that you've made. That will be the center of the wing. Okay, dry fitting that, holding it still. Now I know what I want to do. I'm going to take my CA, and I'm not going to go crazy with it, but I'm not going to be chinchy either. I mean, this is holding my wing on. All right, put that to the side. Okay, now I'm going to carefully, so I don't want them leaves to get in that glue. Okay, I'm going to line, sorry if I'm blocking your path, I'm going to line the front there and the back there, that center line. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, going to hold that in place for just a little bit. Hopefully it won't go anywhere. Okay. I'm going to grab my kicker, okay, which I should have already had ready. Okay. Okay. Alright. Gonna hold that for a little while, and when you think you've held it long enough, hold it a little bit longer. Okay, but that middle section there, that middle line is lined up all the way back here. Okay? I want that to make sure I'm in good shape. I can feel the heat from that CA coming up through there. Alright, we're going to pause there for a little bit, and I will make sure we're good and secure before we go on to the next step. Let that cure. So we'll be right back. Alright, I don't know if that was a recording or not. Alright, what you're going to do is you've got these 4 carbon spars. Okay, you got 4 of them. 2 are longer. Okay, 2 are longer, 2 are shorter. Okay, you're going to take your shorter of the 2, and they go to the back. If you look, there's placement for these spars, little cutouts where they're going to go here, and the same thing over here. So let's go ahead and put in, let me refer to the picture here. Yeah, they do kind of lean like that. All right. So the shorter one's going to go here, and there's a little cutout there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in the wing first. Well, actually, I'm going to shove it up in there. They said you may have to trim it a little bit. Okay. Oh. But I want that to fit down in there like that. Okay. I'll put some CA on it to hold it in place. Careful not to drip CA on that servo that's right below there. Okay, a little kicker. Okay, and then I'm going to take the longer one. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do the shorter one on the other side real quick. I'm going to poke it into the foam at the angle that it's going to sit underneath that bracket there. Okay, and then pull it down into that bracket there. Put some CA on it. Okay. All right. Now, I'll repeat the same process here. I'm going to take the longer spar and shove it up in that foam there. Okay. A decent amount. Actually, I'll probably have to cut some of it off because that's quite a distance there. Alright, so I'm going to cut. Remember, be careful when you're cutting carbon fiber. Don't get any, don't inhale any of it. It'd be toxic. Alright, so that's going to be right there. I'm going to have to cut off about an inch. Okay. Remember, yeah, that's about perfect. Cut off about an inch there. I'm going to shove it up in here and then fish it through the front of that spar there, or the front of the bracket there. Put that in place. Okay. Get my CA going. A medium CA. Little kicker. Little kicker. This is actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I'm going to cut an inch. Well, let me dry fit it first. Yeah, about an inch. Remember, you can always trim more off. Okay. Handle's coming off my pliers. Alright, I'm going to kick it into the top of the spar here. Okay. And put it in place on this side. Okay, it's in place. Put some CA on there. Hold that in place. Okay. A little bit of kicker action there. Kick, kick, kick. All right. Now, those supports are in there. Okay. And that wing is on there. The wings are, it's in there and on there. Okay. So, what I want to do at this point, I want to make sure that I've got good up in here. Good connection up in here on these two struts. So I'm going to put just a touch more CA. I know I got a good connection on the wing up here, but I want to make sure I got it good here on against the fuse. So I'm going to put just a touch more there, because this is structural. Okay. Kick, kick. I'm starting to like the CA stuff too much. Okay. Starting to enjoy this just a little too much. Okay, I'm going to put a little here, a little here. Okay. All right. And that gives me a very minute amount of dehedral in the wing, actually next to none. So really that's going to be a very aerobatic. Okay. And that, all those combined, make for a very strong connection. Okay. So now what we can do is go on to our next step, which should be landing gear. So let me pause and make sure. All right, I was wrong. It's not landing gear. It's these foam strips. Okay. Now, you can use regular contact cement or, you know, white glue, Chinese white glue, or whatever you want to do. I'm just going to go ahead and continue on with my CA, but I got to get it right the first time. Okay. You're going to slide these two pieces out, and what you're going to do, you're going to put these are just extra support, but you're going to align these up. See how the graphics are here on the side? I'm going to slide them in there like that and put them in place where it lines up. So wherever the graphic lines up there, put that in there just like that. So all I'm going to do to make it easier, since I've got that perfectly lined up, I'm going to run me a little bead of CA there and CA there to hold that in place. Kick, 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 kick. All right, I'm going to come back here, run a bead there, and a bead there. Hold that in place. All right, now that's good and secure. Now I can get freehand. Sorry about the beating or the beeping. That's the battery that came with it. All right. All right, that's in there now. That's not going to go anywhere. Actually, let me put a little end on the end piece there. Okay. Turn it around. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing over here as soon as I can find the piece. All right, I'm going to line this, slide this through here. See how the graphic's going to line up there perfectly? Oh, I see what the problem is. I got the, okay, I don't want it okay. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to leave that right there, but I'm going to cut this little section here off because I don't want that to cover up that X. Okay. They talk about that in the instructions too. So get that to line up. Right there where the graphics stay right where they need to be. It's all lined up. Okay. Get your glue of choice. Okay. And that holds that. That's my placemaker there. Hold. Okay. Get it down here. Okay. Now, I can go ahead and anchor the rest of this down. All right. Now, we take our very Tonka toy looking gear. You're going to squeeze this together and slide that slot there, or there's a place where that just slides in. Don't be crazy with it. Just lock it in there. And look at that. Look at that. All right. Now, at this point, folks, I think we got a completed plane. Let me make sure. I don't think there's anything else left to do other than, yeah, that's it. That was the last deal as far as the basic build, and I can't believe we did it together on my first EPP plane. First time I ever put one together. So, all right. Now the next thing I'll be doing is hooking up my receiver. I'm going to put an AR-630. This thing is so light that the wind is going to have its way with it. So I'm going to put an AR-630. Oh, I'm sorry if I'm talking too loud. An AR-630 with safe and stabilizer because of the wind. Get her all bound up, and we'll be right back, and I'll show you my throws and everything. I'm going to put it up by the book and my own rates and everything, and we'll be right back with the radio set. Be the next part of the video. So hang on, we'll be right there with you. Well, hey, all right, got her all put together, got her all bound up. I put an AR-630 as my receiver. Now, I call this over here the ugly side because this is where, according to the only photo I have of Stuart holding it, got his battery right there. Okay, I got the AR-630 mounted right there. Okay, and then putting that battery there, if you put a 3S battery, like one of these really small 3S batteries, you're going to have to really put that almost to the prop in order to get it to bounce. But this is the one that came with the battery. It's an 850 milliamp 4S, okay, with an XC30. And CG on the plane is actually 70 to 80 millimeters back from the leading edge root, which puts it right on the spar that's in the middle. So if you put your finger on that spar, on that middle of that spar, with the battery right there, and she CG is just perfect. Just absolutely perfect right there. Okay. See the placement of that? Okay, kind of in relation. Now, The other battery that they sent to me, they wanted me to feature with this one, is an LIV battery, a high voltage, but the volt battery. Now this is a 750 milliamp 4S, okay, and if I put it basically right here, okay, and plug it in. Actually, let me plug it in first. XT30, okay. Put it right there, and it will CG basically perfect right about there. I probably could pull it forward a little bit. Put a little more Velcro on it. But Velcro is all that's going to be holding that on there. Okay? So that's perfect right there. Alright. I don't have that battery completely all the way charged up, so let me put this one. This is the one that's charged up. I think. Nope, this is the one that's charged up. Okay, so I got some extra ones that I purchased. Okay, put that right there on the end. Put it right back. And we got perfect CG. Okay, so I just remember that on the end of my Velcro there, that's perfect CG. So as long as you know where the CG is, you won't have any issue. All right, well that's that. So let's go over the rates. Now this is set up just by the book. Okay, which I'm really surprised the monster rates this thing has. Let that ESC initialize. Okay, now these rates I'm going to share with you. I'm going to tell you what they are in millimeters, and then I'll show you what that equates to in spectrum and graphically show it to you. Okay, now the high rates on ailerons, what they're saying high rate aileron is 65 millimeters. Okay, but now that's not 65 from neutral. That's 65 total. So basically you want to be about 32 either way. And that equates to, for high rate, 75. Okay, and they're telling you 30% expo. I put 40% expo. All right, now the low rates for ailerons is 30 millimeters, so in other words, from neutral, 15 either way, and that equates to about 40, about 50 on spectrum. Okay, so high rates are 95 per, I'm sorry, I told you wrong. On spectrum, high rates are 95, low rates are 50. Okay, and I got 40% expo, and I split the difference and shows 75 with 40% expo so for mid. So low are 50 on spectrum, mid are 75, high are 95. Okay, so that's how that equates. Now elevator. Low rates on elevator. What they want you to have for low elevator, 25 millimeters, or in other words, about 12 to 13 from the neutral, and that's what that looks like. Okay, and that on a spectrum, that's 25%. Okay, now high rates, they want you to have 50% or 50 millimeters. And then for what that equates to in spectrum is 45%. That's a lot of throw. And I picked 40% expo. With my mid rate being 30. Okay, so low on spectrum is 25%, 40% expo. Mid 30, 40% expo. High 45 with 40% expo. Now rudder, I'm sorry I'm talking too loud. I got the speaker right here. Rudder, I just kind of guessed because they had low rates, cruise around. The high rate being 60, okay, and that's the high rate, and in spectrum that's on spectrum that's 40% expo. Mid rates. High rates. Okay, I apologize. I didn't put. On spectrum, high rate 60 millimeters by the book, or 60, yeah, I can't see it. For 60%, 60 millimeters. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. 60 millimeters on this equates to 50% on spectrum. Okay, low rates rudder, low rates rudder. They wanted 40%. That equates to 40% in spectrum. And I picked a mid of 45. So high is 50, mid is 45, and low is 40. All that and everything over 40% expo. All right, so high rates, low rates, significantly different. Okay, high rates, a whole bunch. All righty. Now, let me show you a little bit about these batteries, and we'll go over total weight. All right, got the battery. I'm going to turn my scale on. Okay, in grams. Okay. Just holding it to where it won't fall over. Total with grams with the 4S battery they sent with it. 562 grams. All right, that's all up weight, 562. I don't remember what the book said. And wingspan, I guess it's in there somewhere. Weight, well, not too bad. They said all up weight with the recommended battery this is 850 milliamp. The recommended battery is 800 milliamp. And that, what I say, 565, and they say the weight will be 500 grams. So 50 grams over, 50 grams over with a slightly larger battery. Okay, now, so that's that. So that's going to be the biggest battery you're going to want to put is at 850 milliamp battery 4S. And you see where I've got it right there. Okay. All right. Now I went ahead and programmed a bunch of fun stuff. Okay. I got safe mode or safe. Okay. AS3X. Okay. And then gyro turned off. Okay. Now, these are my interpretation of 3D gains. This may change when I get to the field, but I'm just going to show you what I got so far. All right, and I picked half, not one-time gains, but half gains, 0.5. Okay, my gains are going to be AS3X mode. For now, on roll, pitch, and yaw, 50, 60, and 70. Okay, priority, all at 150 on roll, pitch, and yaw. Nothing with heading. Stop lock, all at 60 on roll, pitch, and yaw. And then with release rate, 70, 70, and 80 on roll, pitch, and yaw. Okay, I remember with the 3D stuff, you kind of increase the priority and you increase the stop lock and all that. So we'll see it. Now that's only at half gains. And of course, it's adjustable on the roller here, so that once I fly around for the first time, and if it's really windy, I might turn that up and capture those gains and say, okay, here's my high wind or windier time gains, and then turn them down with less wind and capture those gains. Those are my lower gains, you know. But we'll just have to wait and see. You do get a couple of extra of them little gap pieces, and you get an extra piece of fuel tubing. Remember, you're going to need some Vaseline to help grease that up. Prop was a pain in the butt. You have to use one of the adapters. Now this may be because mine's a pre-release model, I don't know, but I had to use one of the adapters to get the prop. The prop was perfectly balanced, which is good, but I had to use one of the adapters, and then I had to really, I don't have a prop reamer, so what I do is I take a knife and I just keep reaming the prop out, and I spin so many times this way and then so many times the back way to keep it even. But I had to really ream that prop out to get one of these little washer adapters to fit the prop on. But no big deal. If that's the only hiccup I had, that's not too bad. I did notice, I went outside and took it down the street to do a range test. And because you don't have a steerable wheel, you just have this skid, the pavement's going to eat that up. So don't, basically you're just kind of landing, just stop the plane. It's going to be a very light plane. It's not going to be flying very fast, but that's already skinned that paint off the end of that skid just on the street. So just be mindful of that. Well, that's pretty much it. It's a good looking little plane. I've never had a profile plane before. You'd think in all the years of me doing this crap that you'd think I would have had a profile plane. I don't know why I call it crap, but I never have, and I've never put one together. But I was surprised at how well it actually went together, and that was probably one of the longest builds, assemblies, as I'm doing it step by step and showing you step by step on how to do it. But this was also the first plane, HobbyKing. You got the pleasure and the honor of being the very first plane programmed in raw to my all-new iX14 Plus SE. This is my new flagship transmitter, which I'll be using. And for all my planes, and my original iX14 has gone off to be repaired. Just to show you real quick on this, it doesn't have nothing to do with this plane, but what happened was this strap, I was at the field, and we got those picnic benches. This strap was hanging down. The thing was sitting flat like this on the picnic table. Somehow this strap got hooked to me. I don't know how it did, but I turned and yanked this off, and then it pulled it face first into the seat part of the picnic table and shattered both of these switches and sent these switches into the transmitter, and I could hear the metal moving around. And all I can think of is one of those metal pieces falling on the wrong spot on the circuit board and frying everything and losing all my models and everything. But I didn't think too hard about it because I went ahead and finished flying that day because I had stuff that did need those switches. Luckily, when I got home, I thought about it. I said, you could have lost your sport or your GB, because that's what I flew with, them broken switches with all that metal rolling around there. That was really stupid of me. But I want to get a video done. All right, I'm going to take a few pictures of it on my messy table, but this is real life. This is not a clean production person. I'm a real life worker, and that's, so take a few pictures. Y'all have a good one. God bless y'all. And let me know how you're liking my camera B-rolls and bonus footage and stuff that I'm putting on a lot of the extra on the back of a lot of my videos now. I want to thank y'all for watching. HobbyKing, thank you for the opportunity to do something new, to have the honor of reviewing your very first release of 2026. And I think it's a cool little plane. It looks kind of ugly, because of how the nature of it, but I don't care. I think this is more about performance and fun than looks. And those wheels look like Tonka wheels to me. Tell me they don't look like Tonka wheels. All right. Well, hopefully we'll get this out in the field and get you made real soon. Like I say, this is about 2 weeks before release, so I got plenty of time to make a lot of good videos. And all right. God bless y'all. Y'all have a good, and don't forget, faith, family, and friends, and then really cool profile planes. Bye-bye.